Growth isn't seasonal. Women can bloom all year round. You know you don't need another winter arc or another spring reset. You just crave growth towards a life that excites you without reliance on the time of year being your spark of motivation. I used to be the queen of summer this and winter that, waiting for the weather or the calendar to tell me when it's time to progress in my life. Then I became a woman of action, taking charge of my life when I want to, and I want the same for you. So in this video, I want to share with you 9 mindset shifts that stopped me just waiting for seasonal growth and actually taking control of my own reality. Let's get into it. The problem with the winter arc. Relying on seasonal arcs like the winter or summer challenges might seem inspiring at first, because capitalizing on a certain time of year can be so beneficial. There's this added element of motivation and almost team mentality if other people are leveraging the same time of year as you. So it can be so valuable. But when we zoom out and look at a whole year, there is some kind of arc every few months that we can fall into, and this constant cycle of arcs becomes a trap for so many women. It keeps them in this loop of waiting to take action and create change in your life, and it creates a mindset where change and growth is completely dependent on a circumstance, not in your control. I used to find myself with some kind of new lease on life every few months, whether it was a summer fitness challenge, New Year, New Me, or a spring reset. I was always just around the corner from the next period of the year that was my time to thrive. But that was literally the problem. I was in this cycle of trying to improve myself and my life for a couple of weeks, losing all motivation, stopping whatever it was I was trying to achieve, and then just waiting around for the next arc to come up, completely unaware of this negative cycle I was in. Relying on the next period of the year to dictate my personal growth just promoted the I will start on Monday mentality. You know that mentality we can fall into when we choose to put off starting that new diet or workout program until Monday, because we all know that you can't start anything new unless it's on a Monday, right? I had that mentality, but on a bigger scale. Instead of waiting to start on Monday, it was I'll start in summer or I'll start in January, leaving these huge gaps of where I was just waiting to do something. It wasn't until I learned that growth isn't about waiting, it's about taking control and making your own moves, that I started to see what was possible for me. Making the most of the time of year is great, but only if you're able to make the most of any time of the year. You can't win the game if you don't get on the field and start playing. You need to start. If you keep waiting for that winter arc to bring the change you want, you'll find yourself in a cycle of always waiting. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. It's easy to think we need to be prepared and fully ready before we start something new. This is the beginner's paradox, the idea that to achieve greatness, you have to be okay with starting poorly. Growth doesn't come from waiting until you're ready. You have to accept starting and being not so great in order to become something great. It's obvious when we say it like that, but we so often run away from starting things because we don't want to start poorly. But this is literally the opposite to the reality of how we improve anything. Think of planting a tree. If you keep waiting for the perfect soil, weather, or time of day, you might never plant it at all. Even if conditions aren't ideal, planting that tree means it has a chance to grow and you can nurture it along the way. Starting poorly is the only way forward. Think of every expert in any area you've ever felt inspired by. Whether it's an artist, an athlete, or a businesswoman, they all start at zero, with clumsy first attempts and super awkward beginnings. You don't see their early stages, but they all had them. The key difference is they took the leap, embraced being bad at first, and slowly got better. Don't let the fear of looking silly or being imperfect hold you back. Remember, starting, no matter how messy, is the only path to getting better. Trust yourself enough to take that first step, and know that the journey will bring improvement over time. The harder we try with the conscious will to do something, the less we shall succeed. The law of reversed effort is the idea that trying too hard can make success slip even further away. It's like holding a handful of sand. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. Waiting for the perfect season to make big changes often sets you up to push too hard, leading to burnout and trying to do everything at once. Sometimes it's about slowing down and letting things unfold instead of forcing them. This law is true in so many different areas of life. Think of how often we try to force ourselves to be creative or desperately try to push for an idea, only to end up frustrated looking at a blank screen. But when we step back, take a breath and let our mind wander, the inspiration often comes more naturally. You'll be in the shower and the perfect idea just pops into your mind. True growth happens when we let go of rigid expectations and let life flow a little more freely. Elite sprinters follow the 85% rule. They try to run at 85% intensity because it keeps them loose, fluid, and effortless. When they try to run at 100% intensity, their bodies tense up and they actually slow down. This is the perfect example of the law of reversed effort at work. By striving for balance rather than perfection, we end up achieving more. Our bodies and our minds are aligned, not strained. True growth is often about balanced effort, not 100% intense bursts. Life isn't about perfection or forcing outcomes. It's about letting go of that pressure and allowing things to flow. Stop waiting for the right time to go all in and instead commit to a sustainable pace that keeps you progressing year round. If you think you're going to regret not doing something, you should probably do it. Regret is the worst, and most people regret far more things they didn't do than things they did do. Regret is one of life's most painful lessons, and it's almost always about things we didn't do rather than the mistakes we made trying. If you know you'll regret not taking a chance, let that be the push you need. Imagine your dreams as a hot air balloon tethered to the ground. The longer you delay cutting the ropes, the less likely it is that the balloon will ever lift off. Eventually, the air in the balloon cools down and it comes back down to the ground. Cut the ropes. The truth is, most of us tend to hold back because we're scared of failing or we think we're not good enough yet. But if you can shift your focus to thinking about how you'll feel if you never take the chance, suddenly that fear of failure starts to pale in comparison to the regret you'll feel. Life is too short to sit on the sidelines waiting to feel regretful. Taking action, even when it feels uncertain, is what moves you forward. Regret rarely comes from trying and failing. It comes from never trying at all. You will never regret moving forward, but you will regret waiting for the next arc to appear in a few months. Consistency is key. Consistency may seem unexciting, but it's the foundation of all meaningful growth. Think of your goals like a plant. You don't drown it with water once a month and hope it thrives. Instead, you give it a little bit of attention regularly. Waiting for seasonal arcs to drench your goals in focus is far less effective than nurturing them with small, consistent actions. Think of consistency like building a brick wall. Each day, you lay a single brick. One brick on its own doesn't look like much, but over time, as you add more bricks, you start to see the structure taking shape. Eventually, it becomes a solid wall. It's those small daily actions that build something meaningful. True growth and progress comes from those small actions repeated over time. And this applies to everything, whether it's building a business, a healthy lifestyle, or a relationship. When you commit to consistent effort, you'll be amazed at the power of steady, small actions over time. Remember, consistency compounds, and that's where true transformation lies. Embrace change as the only constant. Life is unpredictable, and waiting for the right moment is just an illusion. Think of life as an ocean wave. If you resist the motion, you'll only be tossed around. But if you flow with it, adjusting as needed, you'll learn to ride it. Growth happens when you accept that change is consistent and you're not waiting for the right moment, but adapting to the present one. Growth happens when you stop waiting for perfection and start working with what you have. Embrace change instead of fearing it, and you'll see that being able to adapt to anything is the best trait we can have. When you become comfortable with change, you stop waiting for the perfect season and start creating opportunities in whatever season you are in. Change is a given, growth is a choice. Action over information. We live in a world where information is everywhere, but it's easy to get stuck in learning mode, thinking we need to know more before we start. It's the act of doing, even if imperfect, that brings progress. In today's age, we often confuse knowing with doing. It's so easy to fall into the trap of consuming motivational content, reading books or watching videos, and then feeling like we've made progress. But without action, that knowledge doesn't translate into any real change. You have to do the hard part of taking that knowledge and applying it, even if it's imperfect. Growth doesn't come from hoarding information. It comes from taking steps, however small, with what you already know. Knowledge is power, but only when it's put into action. Discipline on the hard days. We all have days when showing up feels impossible. Even getting out of bed is a huge effort. But discipline means being there for yourself even when it's the last thing you want to do. Some days are so easy to do what we need to do and to do what we know is so beneficial for ourselves. Then other days, it's ridiculously hard. It's the hard days that separate those who dream from those who achieve. Think of discipline as a muscle. Every time you use it on the hard days, it gets stronger. And over time, those days that once seemed impossible become just another day that you conquer. Discipline is your commitment to yourself, a declaration that you're in it for the long haul, not just for when things are easy. When you show up on the hard days, you're telling yourself that you're committed. It's a reminder that you're in control and that growth doesn't depend on how you feel or what season it is. It depends on your willingness to persevere. Being disciplined can seem like this masculine approach to your goals, but in reality, in its simplest form, it's just having respect for your future self. You pile up enough tomorrows and you're left with nothing but a lot of empty yesterdays. This is a powerful reminder that life doesn't wait for us to feel ready or motivated. Every time you tell yourself, I'll start next month or I'll get serious in spring, you're just letting life pass by without progress. Life will pass you by as you stay stuck planning and hoping instead of living. Stop piling up tomorrows and start living in today. Growth happens when we stop putting life on hold and start taking consistent steps, no matter how small. Even if the steps feel tiny, they all add up. Life won't wait, and neither should you. Don't let another winter, spring, or summer pass by waiting for the right season. Growth is available now in every season if you're willing to step up and claim it. These mindset shifts are your invitation to take charge of your life and cultivate growth that doesn't wait on the weather. Remember, every day is an opportunity and the time to start is always now. I'll see you on the next one. Love you.